a mother's strength. I was just a boy when my mother left. I remember her soft hands, her kind eyes, and the way she held me close. But one night, she was gone. My father said nothing. He only looked at me with cold eyes and told me to forget her. I didn't understand. Where had she gone? Had I done something wrong? Every night I waited for her to return. Every morning I woke up hoping to see her smile, but she never came back. Life with my father was hard. He was a strong man, but he had no warmth. He worked me like a grown man, and I learned never to complain. My hands became rough, my heart became quiet, but deep inside I never stopped missing her. Years passed, but the emptiness remained. I was no longer a child, but the questions in my heart never faded. Then one day I decided to find her. Years passed, but the emptiness in my heart remained. I grew into a young man, strong and determined. My father wanted me to follow his path, to become like him, a man of few words and a hard heart. But I was not like him. I was my mother's son. I left home as soon as I could. With nothing but a small bag and a heart full of questions, I set out to find her. I had no name, no address, no clue where she had gone. All I had were my memories. I travelled from town to town, asking anyone who would listen. Have you seen a woman with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile? Most people shook their heads. Some didn't care. Others pitied me. One day, an old woman in a market stopped me. A woman like that lived here many years ago, she said. She worked hard. She was kind, but one day she left. Where did she go? I asked eagerly. The woman shook her head. No one knows, but she spoke often of finding someone. A boy she lost. My heart pounded. Could it be? Had she been looking for me all these years? For the first time in a long time, I felt hope. My mother had not forgotten me. She had not abandoned me. She was searching for me, just as I was searching for her. And so I continued my journey, knowing that somewhere in this vast world, my mother was waiting for me. The road was long, and my journey was not easy. I had no home, no real direction, only a name in my heart and a hope that she was still out there. I worked wherever I could, earning coins to buy food and shelter. Some nights I slept under the open sky, staring at the stars, wondering if she was looking at the same sky, thinking of me. In every town I asked about her. I searched for anyone who might have known her. A woman with warm brown eyes and a kind heart, I would say. Many shook their heads. Some told me to forget the past. But I could not. One day I reached a small village by the river. The people there were kind, and an old man invited me to rest at his home. As we sat by the fire, I told him my story. I remember a woman like that, he said. She came here years ago. She was strong, worked harder than any man, but she never stayed in one place for long. My heart raced. Where did she go? I asked. She was searching for something, he said, watching the fire. Or someone. She spoke of a boy she lost. Tears filled my eyes. It was her. I knew it. She had never stopped searching for me, just as I had never stopped searching for her. The old man pointed toward the mountains. She laughed, heading that way. They say she built a life for herself, a strong woman they called her. I felt something deep in my chest, pride. My mother was strong. She had survived, she had fought, and now I was closer than ever to finding her. With renewed strength, I continued my journey, knowing that soon I would see my mother's face again. The mountains stood tall before me, their peaks covered in mist. My legs were tired, but my heart was full of hope. I walked for days, stopping only to rest under trees or drink from cold mountain streams. Each step brought me closer to her. In a small village on the hillside, I found a woman selling bread. She was old, with kind eyes, and she listened as I spoke of my mother. A woman who never gave up, I said. A woman searching for her son. She smiled softly. I know her, she said. My breath caught in my chest. She came here years ago. She was strong, but you could see sadness in her eyes. She worked hard, helping others, always moving forward. Where is she now? I asked eagerly. The woman pointed toward a house on the hill. She lives there, she said. A good woman. She helps the sick, teaches the children. Everyone respects her. My hands trembled. After all these years, I was finally here. I thanked the woman and climbed the hill. The house was small but beautiful, with a garden full of flowers. I stood at the gate, my heart pounding. Then the door opened, and there she was. Her hair was streaked with silver, her face older, but her eyes, the same warm brown eyes, widened in shock. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then tears filled her eyes, and she whispered, "My son?" My voice broke. "Mother!" And in that moment, all the years of pain and separation melted away. She took a step forward, her hands shaking. I saw the years of waiting in her eyes. I wanted to say so many things, but my throat was dry. She reached out, touching my face as if making sure I was real. Then she pulled me into her arms. Tears rolled down my face as I felt her warmth. "I looked for you," I whispered. "I never stopped." She held me tighter. "And I never stopped waiting." Her voice was soft but full of strength. "Every day I prayed that you were safe. I dreamed of this moment." We stood there for a long time, lost in the past and present. Then she led me inside. The house was simple but full of warmth. A small table, books on a shelf, a chair by the window. I saw signs of a life built with patience and hard work. She made tea, her hands steady now. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. I told her about my journey, my struggles, my hopes. She listened, nodding, sometimes reaching for my hand. And then she spoke of her own journey, how she had left, how she had survived, how she had built a life here. She was no longer the helpless woman I remembered. She was strong, independent, and wise. And as I listened, I realized something. She had saved herself. And now we had found each other again. The night grew quiet, but our hearts were full. We sat by the small fire, the warmth surrounding us. I looked at her, my mother, the woman who had suffered but never broken. I saw her strength, her kindness, and the love that had never faded. She smiled at me. "You have grown into a fine man," she said. I always knew you would. I felt something deep inside me heal. The years of separation, the pain of the past, it all faded. I only wished I had found you sooner, I said softly. She shook her head. Life happens as it should. We are here now, and that is enough. The fire crackled. The air was calm. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. She reached for my hand, holding it gently. Stay, she whispered. Let's not lose each other again. I nodded, my heart full. I had searched for so long, and now I had finally come home.